Hello, everyone. We're here to talk about Chapter 12, outlining and how to outline a speech. We're really going to talk about, we're going to go through the outlines pretty quickly, but I really want to get to the magic note card because that is really the crux of what we need to get to. We're going to talk about outlining the speech, but really for this class, I give you all your sample outlines and really kind of tell you what to do for that. And so you really get the hang of how to outline a speech. So I'm going to get to how to do it, but make sure you read chapter 12. That's really important. Make sure you do your C and then watch this video and then make sure you get to how to do the magic note card because that is the important thing that you will need. I'm going to show you a couple of different magic note cards. I'm going to show you my magic note card and then make sure that you watch all the videos that I give you with how to use the magic note card and how to practice using it. The more you practice using it, the better you will be. All right, let's get to it. So let's talk about outline function. First, why do we need an outline? Outlines are so important, and they're not like the same function that we use outlines for with English papers and writing papers in English class. Yes, they help us organize our thoughts and things, but really in speeches, they are keeping us organized. They're a logical progression of our ideas, but they really help us practice the speech. But in extemporaneous delivery of our speeches, they are keeping us delivering the speech. I can't deliver my speech without my outline. It's not like when you're writing an English paper, you use your outline to help you write the paper, right? And you're like, oh, I'm done with the paper, the outline can go away. It's not the case with your outline for your speech. You need that outline because the outline is how I deliver my speech. If I don't have my outline, I don't have my speech. So for extemporaneous delivery of my speech, I need the outline. So it is not the same like you use your outline to write your paper. Your outline for speeches in extemporaneous delivery is your speech. So you absolutely need that outline. So don't poo-poo the outline. We need that, okay? It's not the same thing. So let's talk about the different types of outline. So we have three types of outlines that we use in speeches. The first one is a working outline. This is the rough draft. This is typically what you would compare to that outline that you write for your English class, right? This is the thing that you think, oh, I wrote that outline, and then that's the thing, I used that to write my paper. That's the working outline. That's the thing, you're kind of jotting down ideas, you're thinking like a rough draft, I'm working through what am I gonna write my speech on. That's the working outline. That's the thing that you're like, okay, I'm done. I can toss that away. That's a working outline. The formal outline would be the thing that you would turn into your professor. I don't usually ask for that one in this particular class. I do in my other classes. I make them turn in a formal outline. It's all typed and nice and neat. It typically looks something like your full speech, but in outline format. It has full sentences. It's usually got paragraphs. It's in like full structured, right? And it looks like your full speech just in outline format. It's really formal. In this class, we do so many speeches so quickly that I don't request that because there's just no time, right? We do speeches really quickly. In this class, once we start doing speeches, we do one a week. And so I'm not really looking for a formal outline. You don't have time to do that. We do extemporaneous speeches. I give you a new topic, you do a new speech, and we move on to the next one. So we don't have time to do formal outlines because we're not really spending that much time on speeches. And honestly, I prefer this method better because we're constantly moving and getting better, and really you become better speakers for it. So no worry about that. No worries, but that's what we're doing. What you have is a speaking outline. That is what we put on our cards. The speaking outline is limited words, no long sentences, no big paragraphs. We are looking at keywords, phrases, bullet points. These are things, what I'm looking for in my speaking outline. That's things that you see on my PowerPoint here, or my slides, as people call it. I'm old school, so people will hear me say, oh, it's your PowerPoint. I know, I realized the other day that I'm old because I'd call it a PowerPoint. This isn't a PowerPoint, this is Keynote. I hear the young folks call it a slide deck these days. Apparently I'm way old for calling it a PowerPoint. My slides, these are bullet points, keywords, phrases. What you are looking for, what you're putting on your magic note card is just the things that that keep you on track, so you know how much you need to stay on track and keep that structure, how long you need to speak for. But for me, look at my card, it triggers what I need to say next, and I'm moving on. It's just enough for me to look down and go, yep, that's what I need to say, and look back up. That's it. That's all I'm really putting on here. The other thing I put on here are things like source citations. If I need to be citing a source or I'm quoting something, I will put that on here. I highlight it and I go, I need to read that word for word. Got it. Great. And then I'm back up. And I don't ever spend a lot of time. I never put full things here because I'm not ever supposed to be reading this. If I put too much on here, then I'm going to be feeling as if it's a crutch and I'm going to read the whole thing. That's really not what we're looking for. You're not ever supposed to be reading that. A speaking outline is not meant for you to read it. It's meant for you to look for it, get the things that trying to trigger your memory, and then get back to talking to your audience. Because remember, extemporaneous delivery is not about delivering word for word a speech that you wrote, which is why you don't ever write a full speech. You write an outline, right? You write an outline, so you decide the exact words when you're talking to the audience, and it allows that delivery to be fresh and allows you to talk. And then you don't have to go, oh my God, I forgot the exact word. Well, you didn't have to have an exact word because you didn't have one. You decided the exact words while you were talking. That's extemporaneous delivery. So we'll talk about basic organization for speech. You always want to have 2 to 5 main points in your speech. You never want to have more than that. 2 is pretty basic, it's pretty low. We usually like to have 3. 3 is a nice round number, but 2 is really the least amount you should have. If you only have 1 main point, then that's not really a speech, right? So you always want to have at least 2. And 5, more than 5 is really too many because the audience can't really grasp that. It's too many. At that point, you're just throwing things at them and they don't remember. If you ever have more than 5, really try to condense it down and make them be subpoints of those 5. Really try to look for ways to put them, to categorize them into those other 5, because audiences don't like to have too many things, right? When you have so many things, they can't figure it out and can't make them all fit. Think of a professor when you have a class and they just throw stuff at you, right? And you have a class that you just try to make you remember too many things in a class. It's a lot, right? It's one of those reasons why we really try to keep our classes like this class. When I do lectures, I really try not to make them too long. Or if you have a class that meets like a Monday, Wednesday, this particular class 120, when it meets, my class meets for an hour and 15 minutes. It's not a 6-hour class. It's not an 8, it's not a 3-hour class. It's an hour and 15 minutes. My lectures are usually 20 to 30 minutes. I'm not teaching you, 6 hours of things. It's usually a few main things. The rest are activity-based ideas, right? So where you don't want a lot of things. So your speeches shouldn't be full of a lot of things either. We don't keep a lot of things in our brain. 3 to 5 main points, that's about enough for people to maintain. 3 is usually pretty good. Outside of that, you don't want to do it. Okay? You want to make sure that all of your main points are in unity with the thesis. Make sure that they all drive the point of the thesis home. So if you are talking about why all of your main points, if you're really talking about why this is the best TV show, all of your points should be talking about why this is the best TV show, not why this, why this show had a good producer, right? Or why this show was, why this show made a lot of money or something like that. I don't know. You want to make sure that it all drives that point home. So not why this show's actor was super cute, right? This is the best show because this, and this. Always making sure it drives that home, not why I liked it, why it was the best show. Give me reasons why it was the best show. Not why my opinion, but why this was the best show. Give me evidence why and support those things. Always driving that point home. And then you want to make sure they have relatively equal merit. What does that mean? It means that if I have 3 main points, all 3 of those main points need to have the same amount of support. If I've got 3 source citations for point number 1, that means I should have about 3 source citations for point number 2 and point number 3. Because if I have 3 source citations for point number 1, but no source citations for point number 3, then the audience thinks that point number 3 is not nearly as important as point number 1. And therefore, they forget point number 3 and it falls off. So you need to make sure that all 3 of your points are equal. If I spend 6 minutes discussing point number 1, but I only spend 1 minute discussing point number 3, again, point number 3 falls off. Point number 1 becomes the one that is more important. So you have to make sure that they have relatively equal merit. Make sure you discuss them all equally, give them all the same amount of value. That way the audience will see that they are all equally as important. When you're trying to figure out what your main points are, we've talked about this before, but your thesis of your speech is not like your thesis of your paper. Your thesis of your speech really is, what are your main points? If your main points are, first, I'm going to talk about this. So I've used my main points. You'll see this in my speech that I gave. I give you a sample speech in Flipgrid, so when you watch it. So if I say the 3 main reasons why, I don't know, I'm going to pick a random show. I won't use mine because then I'll give it away. The 3 main reasons why, let's see, what am I drinking? The 3 main reasons why lemonade is the best drink in the world. 1, it's refreshing. 2, it's cool. And 3, it's easy to make. Okay, those are my 3 reasons. Those are my 3 main points. That is my thesis, because those are my main points of my speech. That's my thesis of my speech. That's not like a thesis of your paper when you write it, because the thesis of your paper, we're looking for something a bit more academic and more lengthy, right? We're looking for something that's a little more loquacious, right? We're looking for more words. We want it to sound more. We want to look for something that explains more in detail. We don't need that in speeches. In a speech, your thesis is literally, what are your things? So you'll see here that your well thought out thesis is actually a mini outline for your speech. For example, a thesis, the 5 basic management functions are planning, organizing, directing, coordinating, and controlling. That has how many main points? It has 5, because you just listed them there. That's the preview of your main points, okay? So you can see them here. Planning function, the organizing function, the directing function, the coordinating function, and the controlling function. They're all there. There's your 5 main points. You just previewed them. That is your thesis, okay? So speeches are different than papers. I keep telling you all, speeches are a talking exercise. They are not a writing exercise. We are all about talking, right? I know a lot of it you spend time writing, but if you do your C's by talking through them, as I keep telling you, if you're trying to elaborate more, talk through your C's, you will get them, right? The whole idea is that speeches are about talking, not about writing. It will make a big difference. The same thing with your speeches, talk them out. How much can you talk through them? If you can talk them out, you will be able to write them, because it's about how much you can talk about a topic, not how much you can write about a topic. Speeches are meant to be spoken and heard, not written. They're not writing, they're speeches, okay? Very important. Let's talk about how you can order your main points. Now, I want to be honest. There are some ways to organize your speech and your main points. Some of them make sense for certain things. They just kind of like, you're like, great. Most of the times, we just pick things like this. Logical sequencing, topical sequencing. Most of the time, we pick one of those 2. Sometimes another organizational model makes more sense, but most of the time it's logical or topical. I'm just going to be perfectly honest. So don't kill yourself thinking about that. All of the speeches in this class, outside of the one that I'm asking you to do for the discussion this week, it's persuasive speaking, and it's all going to be the same. So I want you to remember, everything in this class builds on itself. Okay, everybody keeps thinking that each week is separate. No, we're going into week 7 this week. Week 7 builds on top of what you learned in week 6, that builds on top of week 5, that builds on 4, on 3, on 2, on 1. So if you think what you did in week 5 does not match week 7, you're wrong. Go pull week 5 out because you need it for week 7. And a lot of you are forgetting the things that you learned in the previous week for this week. You need it. Go back and find those things. Go dig those things out. You need them for this week. We are building those things on top of each other, okay? Because you need them all. So we're stacking them. So you're forgetting them, not taking them with you. This class is a build on each other kind of class. So go grab those things, go pull your notes from week 1, pull them from week 2, week 3, week 4, go pull all those things. You need them. People have been forgetting that you need those things, okay? So pull them together. All right. So logical sequencing, right? First of all, we're just picking things that we think are the most interesting. I wish there was some better logic to that. There really isn't. So you're going to start with your second most interesting point. Why? Because you want the audience to be interested, but not so interested that when you get to the last one, you got nothing that they're interested in. So you're picking the second most interesting point because you want to pull them in. And then you're going to go with your least interesting point because you're going to sandwich that one in between and then put the most interesting point at the end because you want to finish with the strongest thing. That's just some little logic there for you. And then you're going to pick the logical sequencing controversy. Look, this is if you happen to have something that's controversial. I'm going to be honest with you. Most of the times you should probably not pick a super controversial topic. Why? Because you're just not likely to persuade an audience if you pick a controversial topic. If you pick something controversial, they're not likely to listen to you. Period. Especially in today's time. Cancel culture is a thing. People will get up and walk out. They don't want to listen to you. So if you're brave enough to pick a controversial topic, good luck. People don't really listen to you when you pick controversial topics. I'm just going to be honest. So you should probably stay away from them because they're not going to listen. And they're certainly not going to be persuaded if you get them to listen. So really be strategic with your topics. We talked about audience analysis and thinking about your audience. Really do think about your audience. Who are they? And is it going to be beneficial before you pick a controversial topic? But if you do, first, pick the point that they're going to agree with the most. You want to get the most buy-in first, because if they're going to get to the first point, at least let them get the thing they're going to be the most agreeable to. And then you're going to give them the point they're going to agree with the next most. So the one that they'll agree with somewhat. Great. The thing that they're going to agree with the least, stick that at the end. So you're thinking, hey, I'm going to get as much in there as I possibly can. Do what you can, right? This is if you're going with something controversial. Okay, chronological order. Chronos, time, order. This has to do with things that have an order. This would be if you're talking about a person, right? If you happen to be doing like an informative speech about a person's life, if you happen to be doing something like a how-to speech, a demonstration speech, things that have to do with a sequence of time, then you need to use a chronological order. That's important because there is a purpose. You have to do things in sequential order, in time order, right? So if you were doing an informative speech on Kobe Bryant, you might want to use chronological order because you would want to talk about the time of his life. You want to talk about birth, his, childhood, his adolescence, the time that he was, in high school, and then his early years in the NBA, his later years, that he retired, and then talk about his untimely death, right? And then what has happened with his legacy after he has died. That is chronological order. So that would be chronos, right? Chronological order. The other things that you could talk about with chronological order, how to make brownies, right? There are steps that need to be followed to make brownies. You obviously can't bake the brownies in the oven until you have put the flour and the chocolate and the egg and the oil in the bowl and mixed it up first. You have to go in order. So that is what chronological order is. That one is one you kind of have to pick. If there are certain things that you're doing, you have to use chronological order. But this is one of those that you have to use for some, but the majority of the time you have an option to use chronological order because I don't have to talk about Kobe Bryant in chronological order. I can choose to, but I could also just talk about Kobe Bryant in other things. I could choose to talk about his NBA career and talk about his achievements. I don't have to. I could talk about I could talk about him through each of his children. I could talk about his endorsements. I could talk about his businesses. I could talk about any number of things about Kobe Bryant. And they don't have to be in chronological order. I could pick topical order, whatever, choice. So you don't always have to pick chronological order. You have options. Spatial order has to do with where things sit on a map. And spatial order is definitely not something that you have to choose. It is an option, and it's a nice thing to do. And I would recommend that if you're ever going to use spatial order, you should absolutely use a visual aid, because it is something that really looks nice to be able to look at. So if you're going to use spatial order, use a map. Give us an option to see the visual. And this is really cool. So you could talk about, let's say you wanted to do an informative speech on our campus about CSUDH. You could talk about it chronologically. You could talk about the history of our campus, how it began from start to finish and where it is today and where you think it is going in the future. Or you could choose to talk about it in spatial order. And then you could pull out a map and talk about where things are on the map and look at it visually. And you can talk about the old, you could look at some of the older buildings versus some of the new buildings that are going up and the buildings that just opened, and show them to us on a map. That would be spatial order. It would be kind of cool. Two different ways to talk about the same thing. Or you could just talk about it in topical order. You could talk about the different majors. You could talk about what makes our campus unique and why we're different, and what makes us great. I think topical order about our campus is actually pretty cool, because I think our diversity is really great. I think our interest in students is really great. I think we just have a wonderful campus. Don't have to talk about it spatially or chronologically. All right, causal or logical order. This one tends to work for persuasive speaking, but we don't use it for persuasive speaking. Reminder, our persuasive speech order is problem, cause, solution. First main point is problems. Second main point is causes. Third main point is solutions. We don't do anything else for our class. Every speech you give in this class, problem, cause, solution. Every speech. So these are all just ways to do it. This class, problem, cause, solution, every single time, except for this week. This week, we're doing a fun one. Every other week, problem, cause, solution, every time. Okay, anyways, causal or logical order. This one says, this thing caused this thing. That's what this says. Okay, it says, if you did this, it caused this thing. First main point, I did this. Second main point, this is what happened. This one says, cocaine use is alarming. It's accelerating. It says, cocaine is destroying public health. That's it. Cause, effect. There you go. Topical order, most popular speech order. What does it mean? Pick whatever order you want. Is that the most academic way to explain that? Nope, but it's the most real way to explain it. Pick whatever order you want. So that's the order that you pick, whatever way you think sounds best. That's what topical order means. There is a really educated academic way to explain that. And I have written really academic ways to explain that. I've presented academic ways to explain that at conferences, but it doesn't matter. What you need to know, topical order means you decide what order you want to put them in, and speaker's choice. That's what that means. Moving on. All right, so let's talk about the outline that you need to use for discussion number 7 this week. This makes it look like it's really complicated. It's not. It's a 2-minute speech, y'all. I just had to put it here in a format that y'all could understand. It looks so complicated written down. It's really not that complicated when you write it down, when you do it, because it's really 2 minutes, okay? So really what you're gonna do is you're gonna use your introduction, and you have to use the same introduction that you have learned before. Why am I making you do it that way? Because you have to remember that this class builds and stacks on top of each other. So I'm not going to tell you what it is, because I need you to go back to the weeks that we talked about in introduction and go back to the notes that I gave you about the introductions, because I gave you really good notes about what you did wrong about your introductions, and I need you to learn from them. So go back all your speeches need to have introductions, just like the week we talked about introductions and conclusions. Now, I was nice to you and gave you conclusions because we didn't do a week about conclusions where I gave you feedback. So I gave you the conclusion. All right, introductions, same introduction that we have been doing before. You need all that stuff, go back to it. Okay, then you need a transition. What does that transition need to be? First, I'm going to talk about this. Done. Okay. Then you need your first main point. Okay. So what is this speech going to be about? You're going to pick one of your favorite whatever, favorite TV show, favorite book, favorite movie, favorite band, favorite artist, favorite musician. I don't care. Pick your favorite whatever. I picked a favorite TV show. It's not even my favorite TV show, y'all. I picked something in the moment just so I could give you all an example, okay? You can spend more time on it. I did not spend a lot of time. I am not really concerned. I just want you to get used to writing the structure on the magic note card and using the magic note card to deliver a speech. That's what I'm concerned about. That's what this assignment is for. I need you to actually learn the structure of how to use the magic note card and learn how to use the magic note card to deliver a speech. This is super easy for me. I've been doing it for 20 plus years. So I do this super like the back of my hand. We use it for impromptu speeches. We use it for like, I mean, it's nothing for me because I do it at every single tournament. Like I've been doing it forever. So it's not hard for me, but students have to learn how to do this. And the more you practice this, the better you will get at it. So that's your assignment for the discussion 7. So you have to learn how to do this. So what is the outline structure? You need main point number 1. In this, it's just like your C's, except way simpler. All I'm asking you to do is make a statement, 1 sentence. So you're going to start by saying the first reason why this show is so great, and then give me another sentence to elaborate on this. Why can you not elaborate that much? Because you only have 2 minutes. So when you watch my speech, I did give you a sample speech on Flipgrid. Watch it. You'll see how short that elaboration is. Super short, because it's only a 2-minute total speech. It's really short. You don't have a lot of time to elaborate. It looks really complicated here. It's not. Watch the speech. You'll feel a lot better, I promise, okay? So statement, elaborate on it, and then transition to your next point. What do I mean by transition to your next point? You say, next. That's your transition. You're welcome. Okay, then you have your next main point. Next, I'm gonna talk about this. That's your second reason why whatever you picked is the best. Next, this is the best because, and then give me some other reason. And that's because blah, blah, blah. Next, third main point. This is the best because, give me another reason. Explain it a little bit. Then go to this. Here's your last transition. So today I told you why blank, insert whatever your blank is the best because first reason, second reason, third reason. Go back to whatever you did in your attention getter. I'm being nice. I'm giving you this because it's in your conclusion and I have not given you feedback on conclusions yet, right? And then you're going to say, go back to your attention getter and then say, thank you. It's all there. You're welcome. Watch the speech. I gave you a sample speech. All right, I actually gave you a couple of sample speeches, but I gave you specifically this one for discussion number 7. Don't worry about it. Okay, now, how do you do this? Tips on the magic note card. All right, here you go. If in the real world, not for the magic note card, in the real world, if you are using note cards, they need to go this way. They are always horizontal, never this way. If you're wondering with like phones, it's always landscape, not portrait. You're welcome. You should always use one side of your note card, never write on the back if you're not using the magic note card, okay? Always write keywords, short phrases. You can draw pictures if you want, whatever, make it work for you. Always practice with your cards. Remember when we talked about how to practice as close to the real world, as the real situation as possible. So if I'm gonna be using cards in my speech, I'm gonna practice with my cards. It really helps. When you do read from your cards, make it really clear that you are reading intentionally because your audience should know that that's on purpose, right? So when I read from my magic note cards, you will see it in the video. When I give you the video, you'll see me read, it's intentional. I am purposely reading. According to the New York Times on September 22nd, 2002, Donald J. Trump said, blah, 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 blah. That's kind of what he sounds like when he talks anyway for me. Sorry if you're a Trump fan. I'm just not a fan of his. But if you're a Trump fan, you probably think that Biden sounds like that when he talks. So we're even. Great. Okay, so I'm purposeful. When you do read, make it look and sound intentional. So the audience knows that you're doing that to make sure they know that it's a reason why you're reading, okay? You should hold your magic note card. It goes in your non-dominant hand. What the heck does that mean? Your dominant hand is the one you do everything with. I am right-handed. I wish I was ambidextrous. Man, if you are, so jealous. I'm not. I write with my right hand. So I'm right-handed. I do everything right-handed. So, that's my dominant hand. So my magic note card goes in my left hand. Do that because we tend to gesture more with our dominant hand. So you put it in your non-dominant hand, so you're less likely to be like, woohoo, look at my hand with my card in it. You put it in your non-dominant hand, so that's fair. And remember that you can gesture as much as you like, and then when you're done, you just put it down and it doesn't distract. But it's folded in half. See, it's folded in half and it goes in the palm of my non-dominant hand. So it's not even that visible, right? So it doesn't distract, and it should be white. And it's a 3x5. If you're wondering what the heck this is, day one of the class, you'll notice under required supplies, I put it in there. It's a pack of 3x5 index cards. I said, get these. Remember I said, get these on day one? It's in there. Yeah, you should get these now. Now, I will tell you, if you get these. You should get these. All right, get yourself some index cards. All right, hold it in your non-dominant hand in the palm, okay? And always write yourself helpful notes. I draw arrows for where to walk and all that kind of stuff. So I write myself little notes on my cards all the time. Smile. I write the first full line of my attention getter, so it reminds me. Because sometimes I get up here and I get super nervous and I don't know what to say, and I'm like, oh, look, there it is. Okay. No, I'm not nervous. And I don't start my speech with a filler word. It helps me out tremendously. So that's my trick. And I'm like, oh my God, there's people. What do I say? Oh, that's what I say. Great. And I draw myself little smiley faces or notes or things, arrows to go, oh, walk. Great, thanks. Great, whatever I need. Here's little tips, okay? So whatever you need, write yourself little helpful notes. Okay. Now, let's look at how the heck to do these magic note cards, because we don't always know. Okay. Tip number one on your magic note cards, you'll see that I have numbers here, 1, 2, 3. Why did I not number all of them? First of all, I do number my magic note cards. So I've got 2 sections here. These are my actual magic note cards. This is a template to show you how to do that. But you'll see I have numbers here in the top corners. That helps me so I know which section I'm actually looking at practically. So this is section 1, 2, 3, 4 for me. I do number my cards so I know when I look at them, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the one I needed. Whew. Yeah, I need number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. I do number them so I know which way I'm going. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I do number them. That's for me. What you are looking at when you get your magic note card, when you get your 3x5 index card, fold it in half so you have a little book. Look, I have a little book. Okay, so I have a little book. Got my little book. Now that I have a little book, I'm going to take my first quadrant here and I'm going to draw a line across it here. And that's so I know I have the top for the introduction and the bottom for the conclusion. The reason I put both of those in the same quadrant is because we know the introduction and the conclusion are pretty similar. So I don't need to waste a whole, like 2 separate sides for that. They're very similar. So I can use some of the same information and I can save aside. So I give myself 1 quadrant for the introduction and the conclusion. Then I'm going to flip it over. And then I've got 1 quadrant. See that number 1? That lets me know that's main point number 1. And that is where number 1, that's main point number 1. I can use that whole section for main point number 1. Whatever I need for that goes there. Then I open the book, flip it out, right? So then I've got quadrant 2 here. Sorry, I skipped the number. Quadrant 2 here, that is for main point number 2. And then I have quadrant 3 here. That's for main point number 3. So I flip it over, main point number 3. And then I'm gonna change to the cover of the book again, and I'm back to quadrant number 1 for my conclusion, okay? That is how you do that. So now you can see how those work. And then this is my actual magic note card. And I give you that so that you can see, this is the one I just did for the speech that I put on Flipgrid. But if you look in week 7, you will see that I give you a video of an informative speech I did on hula. And this is the magic note card that I use for that speech. I thought you should see my actual practical magic note card that I use with all my notes and all my highlights and things. Notice I use different color pens. I use highlighter and arrows and all those things. So you should see all my notes and how I use it. You don't have to do your magic note card that way, but I thought you should see all the things that I use that really help me. So you can understand that it's not just, ink on a card. Notice I'm giving myself all these hints. I don't grade you on what you put on your magic note card. It's up to you. But I just wanted you to see that it really helps to add a lot of different things, because this is really about how am I triggering myself to be able to deliver this speech extemporaneously? What kinds of notes do I need to give myself to be able to talk to you all and give you a speech about something to be able to share? That's really what this is. That's what I'm doing. I'm making sure I have enough info to be able to share with you all. So that's what this is, okay? So trying to make sure I have enough to give you. And so I thought you should see that when we talk about these magic note cards, okay? All right. So this is gonna be a fun week. Have fun with it, right? Don't freak out. This is a fairly simple discussion in the sense that we're just playing around with these magic note cards. I'm trying to give you a chance to get used to these with a silly topic. This does not include any research. Don't go look up any sources. Don't go figure out, please don't go find out research on why you should recycle. I'm not asking you to do that. Just go talk about your favorite TV show for 2 minutes. That's all I'm asking you to do, and tell me 3 reasons why, or your favorite movie, or your favorite band, or your favorite artist, or whatever. I don't know. Tell me why Bad Bunny's the best. You have to do some real convincing, because I can never figure out what the heck he's saying. I'm joking, and he's fine. Please don't, please, it's a joke. It's a joke. Please don't come after me, okay? Don't send after me. Bad Bunny's fine. But have fun, right? Spend 2 minutes telling me why so-and-so's your favorite, but you have to use the magic note card, okay? You have to use the magic note card, and you have to show me your magic note card, okay? Have fun. Send me questions if you have them, okay?